And as far as Donald Trump is, saying that he is the one who is responsible, I don't think that is the correct thing.
The DGISP are saying that we have been asking for ceasefire, but India is doing this, that, and even the Prime Minister of Shahbaz Sharif said the same thing.
Munir is the one who is calling the shots there. Anybody who calls a shot doesn't want to be shot himself.
In Indian Army, who disregards or disrespects Pakistan's forces, all of you talk respectfully about them. Good evening, my name is Sushil, you're watching Echoles. Today in Echoles we have a special guest, a renowned Navy veteran, Mr. Vijaypal Rawat ji. We have discussed from Operation Sindoor to the no first use policy of India, as well as no nuclear policy of Pakistan, unfortunately. He explained to me why officers and soldiers respect each other in both the countries, India and Pakistan. Commodore Rawat has commanded a ship called as INS Gomti, and he has been one of the brightest spots in the Navy. I have spoke to him personally as well as on camera, and the pleasure is always mine. Let's meet Commodore Vijaypal Rawat. जो ये वॉरफेयर पूरा बदल गया, पूरी गेम ही बदल गई इस टाइम पे, उस पे आपका क्या कहना है कि वॉरफेयर ऐसे बदल कैसे गया? लाइक वी सॉ इट हैपनिंग इन ईरान, इन यूक्रेन एंड रशिया. हमने इसको वहां भी देखा, जो ईरान ने हमले करे थे वो भी देखा. वर वी रेडी फॉर दिस काइंड ऑफ वॉरफेयर?
Definitely we are ready for this kind of warfare, because whatever campaign happens in the world, as a matter of policy, not only our armed forces but any other armed forces, professional armed forces, they would do a thorough analysis of the entire thing, lessons learned, and what could have been done much better, and how we can implement this in our campaigns in future whenever it happens. So the issue of drone warfare, the issue of using long range missiles, because in the world today everyone knows, if one country which is militarily very powerful is actually confronted with some other country which is not as powerful in terms of numbers, but powerful enough, if you say that the conventional superiority which we've got only manifests once the warfare prolongs. If the warfare is on, it's like world heavyweight champion, two heavyweight champions fighting against the rookie. So if a rookie guy is fighting, then probably he may last 15-20 seconds of one round. Even if it lasts beyond 1 to 2 rounds, at the end of 8th or 9th round, what is his condition? That is what decides which is a more powerful boxer and more technically sophisticated boxer, and who's not. So when we come to India-Pakistan scenario, Pakistan is not a wannabe kind of military power. It is definitely a superior military power in terms as compared to other smaller countries. It's quite superior. It has got 7 to 8 corps. It has got a very professional air force, and the pilots have been exercising with a lot of Western countries, a lot of Middle East countries. So they've flown all kind of aircrafts, and they've also flown aircrafts pitted against the top of the world aircrafts. When they have this kind of staged warfare activities, and also they are quite that way very, very professional force. India definitely is very professional, very powerful. In terms of numbers, we are more. In terms of technically, maybe better. But nobody should expect that when these two countries are having this kind of skirmish or a conflict, that losses will not happen in both sides. Definitely, they will happen. Now, war, as we all know, is very expensive proposition. It is also a business. It is business for the country which are actually net arms exporters of the world. Incidentally, the arms industry is the largest industry in the world. Second is the drugs industry, pharmaceutical, and third is the petroleum industry. More than 8 to 9 million American people are employed only in the arms industry. This is the largest exporter. China is catching up.
Military industrial complex.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what people have seen largely, that war is a very expensive proposition. So how we can cut down the cost of the war? Obviously, the cost of war cannot be cut in totality. But if it is a short duration war, like 10 days intensive war, or 5 days war, or 4 days as in this case, then you can actually minimize the losses, minimize the economic losses also. So the best thing is to use drones, because drones are very cheap and they have lesser combat potential. But a mass attack by drones can actually cause the same kind of damage which perhaps a very, very expensive aircraft can carry. Number one. Number two, these days, the technical superiority of the forces is such that risking a very expensive fighter aircraft entering into an enemy's airspace and trying to create damage or any combat damage to the enemy becomes a bit more difficult. Now, most of the time, the world is witnessing a warfare which is one-sided, like American forces attacking, let's say, Syria or some other country, smaller country, Afghanistan, or even for that matter Iraq, they're not that powerful. So there is no real opposition.
Yes.
So they can have a total air superiority in that area. They can control the skies, and they can do whatever
And
they want to
narrative.
do. And narrative.
Yes.
Here it is not the case. Here they are equally powerful. We are also much more superior. So that is why perhaps people have moved on to using standoff weapons. Now, standoff weapons, there are a couple of advantages. Number one, these days, the standoff smart munitions are so good that you can actually have precision strikes. And that will avoid collateral damage. And nobody wants to have collateral damage. Because it is
When you say standoff means what?
standoff means a weapon which can be fired from a range of 100, 200 kilometers. So now you don't have to actually enter into enemy territory. Like for example, in this warfare you've seen from our side, when we did a strike on 7th night, that 25 minutes campaign which we did was so efficient, so effective. Because our aeroplane did not cross into their area. Rather, we would have stood 30, 40 or 50 kilometers standoff from the actual the notional border. And thereafter, they would have fired, released their weapons.
Did we cross the line this time?
No.
Not even once.
Not even once.
Okay.
It's like Kargil, not even once we crossed the line. That's why this warfare is very atypical in nature. There are 2-3 reasons for it. Number one is that it is the first non-contact war ever fought in the world. Number two, it is the first war of drones between two nuclear-armed opponents. And three, this is perhaps one of the shortest warfare which has been fought in the world. Yom Kippur was 7 days.
Yes.
It was very decisive.
Decisive, yes.
This was also very decisive. And fourthly and importantly, this was perhaps the largest air campaign since World War II. As per the report which I've read, a total number of aircraft in sky on 7th May and also on subsequent days were more than 125 to 130.
From both the sides, from our side?
Total. In totality.
Okay.
And imagine all the aircraft are so sophisticated. And they carry all kind of weapons.
With no dogfight.
With no dogfights.
Just
There's no question.
hitting
Now
each
the
other.
dogfight is, see, in this kind of warfare, which was adequately proved in this campaign, it is who sees whom first and fires. How superior is your radar system? How superior is your backup system, your surveillance system, which can pass on the target information to you? How fast you can detect, locate, identify the target, and how fast you can maneuver in a position where you can release a weapon. And the best part is how better is your final engagement aspect, which is your missile which you're firing. So if you can see me before I can see you, then you win the battle.
Yes.
So that is why in today's warfare, you cannot just brush away that there won't be any losses. And if somebody says that there's no losses, I think then that is not the correct statement. Losses will happen because this kind of because everybody's got technical know-how. And when it comes to Pakistan, they earlier had a total backup from the US in terms of weapons and other armory. Then now China is there,
All-weather friend.
All-weather friend or fair-weather friend. Then you got Turkey, which is supporting them, Azerbaijan, which is supporting them, and there may be many other countries that are supporting them covertly, not necessarily overtly. We have Russia, we have Israel, we have got a mix of weapon and equipment which we got from so many other countries which are.
Is that good for us, or is that do we have some issues because of that?
Good in the sense that firstly, when you diversify your armory, then you can't be kept hostage by one country
yes.
in case there is some kind of international process against you, like sanctions against you. That we saw in 90s when after the Buddha smiled, so there were a lot of sanctions imposed on us. Couple of countries actually did not give us spares, and so that's a problem.
So Buddha smile was the nuclear test done by India in 1998.
1998.
Yes.
So now if you diversify your armory of weapons and your stable of the equipment you have, then even if one country is not giving you something, then there are other suppliers whom you can bank on to get this. Other thing is that there are a couple of technological sophistication which some countries have got in their weapon equipment, which your main supplier may not have. So that advantage is also there. Couple of disadvantages in the sense that you will have to then once it is diversified, you will have to train additional manpower for each and every weapon equipment which have been sourced from different country, because the process of utilizing those things would be slightly different. So then it becomes diversified. But then I think in today's world, people are able to manage, and we are doing a very effective management. As a naval officer, as a naval veteran now, I can tell you that in my ship, there were INS Gomti I commanded. It was a guided missile frigate. We had missiles from Russia, long-range surface-to-surface missile from Russia, P-21s, which had a range of 120 kilometers. Then I had the Barak missile, surface-to-air missiles, which are one of the best missiles in the world, with a point defense missile system. That means any incoming missile fired by an aircraft or a ship can be intercepted by this effectively. That was Israeli. Our entire ship and machine engines were all Indian. Some of the boilers were British boilers. Then we had a helicopter which is from UK. Then we had torpedoes which are from Italy. So like that, so there's a lot of mix of. Then we had a communication system which was totally from India.
So it's not as negative as people say.
No, it's never negative, and it's basically one has to have an attitude. And if you're a professional outfit like the Indian Navy is, and for that matter the Indian Armed Forces is, then there's not a problem.
Now, we were discussing initially about the in UFC fights or the boxing matches. The one who's well trained usually goes for longer rounds, which we saw in this war
Yeah.
on 9th and 10th, when we actually literally destroyed them. They had nothing to offer against our forces.
Exactly.
Right, 7th, maybe 8th, we had some losses, and then 9th and 10th we were extremely superior. And that's where, do you think that Americans or anybody else wanted to get a ceasefire so the world don't see our weapons, so they don't buy it from us? What's the deal there? Because that's what I thought, that they want to stop this war because they don't want world to see our weapons and place orders to us.
That may be one thought process, and it may not be incorrect.
Okay.
Because in this kind of warfare, as I told you, it's a business also.
Yes.
What America does when it is actually taking on a very weaker enemy, it is a display, a demonstration of all the new weapon and equipment system which they try and evaluate there. And as a result, a lot of other countries actually buy from them. This kind of warfare was also unique in the sense that there was a display of American equipment, there was display of Chinese equipment, there was display of Italian equipment, which Pakistan had. There was display of Indianized equipment India had. Again, Israeli equipment which India had, French equipment which India had, and also Russian equipment which India had. So it is multinationality equipment which are being utilized.
Celebration of weapons.
So it is a celebration of weapons. Of course, in such kind of things, there are always some losers, some winners. And if you look from the business point of view, definitely what you're saying may be correct. But I don't think so that the ceasefire reason was this. Eventually, there will be ceasefire in any kind of warfare. I mean, people have, if the political leadership is foolish enough, they will not do the ceasefire earliest because nobody wants to have a war of attrition. Otherwise, it will land up the same thing what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. War of attrition does not, it doesn't actually speak well about the political leadership, the astuteness of the politicians. And as far as Donald Trump is, saying that he is the one who is responsible, I don't think that is the correct thing. As his name indicates, he's just trumpeting about his achievements, which may not be totally the right way of looking at this kind of ceasefire which has happened.
But he came out of his statements. Do you know that in Qatar he said, in Saudi he said that it was me. But in Qatar, in front of his own army, when he was addressing them, he said, "Oh, there are people who are saying things. I did not say that I am the one who did ceasefire, but I helped it." So he changed his statements like within 24 hours.
But he's been changing his statement regularly. So everyone is aware of this and everyone takes stock of that kind of stuff and actually caters for this kind of vagueness in his statement all the time.
Absolutely. And the Prime Minister was talking to the Air Force airmen, and he said very interesting thing. He said, "इतने दिनों से चला रहे थे, पता नहीं था कैसे काम करेंगे, अच्छा है यूज कर लिया, पता चल गया कैसे काम होता है." What do you have to say about that?
No, this is one way of connecting with the lower rank officials of the Indian Armed Forces, because what happens when a prime minister who has a lot of respectable position not only in India but also in the world forum, when he comes so close and talks with the language which is rather not very professional, it's a I won't even say childish language. It's a language where everyone understands. Fauji's understand that he's trying to be very friendly with us, and that's why he's giving this kind of example. So he was trying to build some bonds between the people because I'm sure that in his position he would have been so happy with the kind of performance which was given by the people. After all, it is not the machine which matters; it is the people who are behind the machine which matters.
Yes.
And these people were exposed to the kind of risk which could have happened because Pakistan also had long-range missiles. They had the P-15E missile, which got longer range than any of our missiles.
Okay.
Yes, so and
Chinese made.
It's a Chinese-made missile, so risk was always there. And these people actually stood their test of time, and they were very stoic in their approach and very professional. That's why we were able to do a fantastic job during this 4 days campaign.
What about the people who claim that because we hit one of the mountains which had nuclear arsenals in Kirana Hills, and there were 2 hits, and there was nuclear leak, and there were genuine claims that America came in between and decided to clear the nuclear waste for them, and that was the real reason why the ceasefire happened. What do you have to say?
There are 2-3 things. Actually, there's a fog of war. There is a heavy involvement of the media and people who have got vested interest to actually spread falsehood. Number 3, as Winston Churchill said during World War II, that a lie, a truth is so precious that it has to be surrounded by the bodyguards of lie. So that's what actually happens, because these things they're not been corroborated by official authority, because Kirana Hill, whether it is carrying nuclear warheads or not carrying, nobody knows about it. It is not so simple to even decipher that it is carrying. Secondly, there has been no statement by either their government or our government to state that something like this has happened. People are saying that they found there was one aircraft which came from from South Africa carrying boron. With boron is
Egypt.
required. Egypt
Yeah.
carrying boron.
Yes.
Boron is required there to contain the nuclear.
Yes. Yes.
All these things. And also there was a US aircraft from the International Atomic Energy Agency to check.
And they also bought one more US aircraft.
Yeah, so
there
all
was a
this-
retired one, you know.
So at best,
Yes.
it is fictitious knowledge and information, because there are people who are spin doctors. There are people who do it on purpose. There are people who want to increase their TRP. So I don't think anything which is not been able to officially corroborated by both the countries should be taken. It should be taken with a pinch of salt.
So why would our the Air Force spokesperson smiled when they asked that question? He smiled and said, "No, nothing like that has happened,"
Yeah.
and that gave a lot of speculation that it might have happened, if you remember.
So, well, I know Air Marshal Bharti, we have done a course together in
Okay.
OT.
Okay.
So he's a very professional officer. That's why he reached the rank where he's reached. So he's got a knack of saying things. Probably that is his style of saying things.
They asked the same question which I just asked you, and he smiled and said, "No, nothing like that has happened."
Yeah, obviously,
Because he
also said-
smiled, so people thought, "Okay, all
He
right."
also said, thanks to let us know that it is a storage yard for the nuclear weapons.
But Kirana Hill was definitely attacked. There were videos of it.
No, see, videos these days, you can have fake videos also. You can
Okay.
have manipulated videos. You could have videos of some other place which is playing, a couple of videos which were shared in the WhatsApp group
Mhm.
and other media also, where eventually videos from some other war which is taking place somewhere else. So unless it is very difficult in today's world to actually get to know what is the facts. So now, if you see, so here some country can take advantage. Pakistan always takes advantage of this. We, on the other hand, if you see, did a very methodical and very, very responsible kind of activity,
Yes, yes.
wherein we let the campaign get over, and then only we came on TV to say what all we have done. Vis-a-vis them, they started from day one, we have done this and this, and they started having media briefing. Well, one may also assume that is the right way of handling media, managing and creating a narrative. And that's how some people say that Pakistan did an excellent job in that. But we were very clear what we have done. We were very clear from the very start that it was against terrorism. It wasn't against anything else. So on 7th night when we attacked, then we also within 10-15 minutes we told the other side, look, we have done this and let's not escalate. Which means what? I mean, it's such a it's a mark of a very responsible country and the leadership.
So what? Oh, okay. Who, if we have to simply look into in terms of the numbers and the objectives achieved, who won this war?
I think I would say as a very true and patriotic Indian and as a naval veteran, nobody can deny the fact I always say that India has won.
Okay.
But having said that, I've read a lot of articles and seen a lot of videos internationally also by the spokesperson and all. Amongst all, I found there's a guy called he's a historian, Mr. Cooper, and he's a very authoritative historian on air campaigns in the world. And I listened to his video and I also read his articles.
I guess I heard that. Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah, please.
So he had very categorically mentioned that based on the analysis of the satellite imagery, which was revealed later on, and even at that point in time, and then if you leave the quantum of damage which has happened, by far India won the air campaign, hands down. There is no doubt about it. See, a country which is asking for a ceasefire, what does it mean? He has been battered nice and proper. He doesn't have the power to further escalate because all his combat potential has either been neutralized or been degraded to such an extent that he cannot rise again and do things. After all, Pakistan is a country which is actually, although democratic country, but has only for the face value.
Yes.
Otherwise, is a totally military dictatorship happening there. And Asim Munir is the one who's calling the shots there. Anybody who calls a shot doesn't want to be shot himself. So he understands that if I don't have the people under me, then what kind of king I am?
Yes.
So this is saying in a very, very generic manner. The fact of the matter is, they all understand. And as a military person, he definitely understands where I have reached and what I should do next. Quietly, he put in his towel and said, okay, let's ask for ceasefire.
But I also definitely remember the DG ISPR saying that, we have been asking for ceasefire, but India is doing this, that. And even the Prime Minister of Shahbaz Sharif said the same thing. The Defense Minister said the same thing. But just the moment ceasefire was done, they attacked us. And after attacking us, they started celebrating that we won.
So
what was that?
Pakistan is known to be pathological liars.
Cheap shots.
Yeah, they are pathological liars. Now, if you keep on lying, that lie becomes truth for them. So it has got a psychological effect on themselves. So this is what, if you see, Pakistan always claims victory. 65, they claimed victory. 71 after losing one eastern
65,
part.
they were strong.
They were strong.
But they
65
lost,
was-
but they were strong.
Yeah, I mean, 65 war actually, in some report I read that we lost more aircraft than their aircraft. But this could be also a hoax story because they were having American arsenal. We were
Yes.
having Russian
They
arsenal.
were all confident.
We also had British arsenals.
Yes.
And we had arsenal from all over the place. But they had Sabre jets, which was supposed to be one of the best aircraft in those days, which was American arsenal. So when America is backing you, you can say anything.
Yes.
It becomes truth.
Yes.
So that could be reason. But yes, 65 war, when it comes to land battle and all, it was more or less a stalemate. And maybe our politicians did not play the game properly. Otherwise, if you capture Haji Pir, how can we just give it back? You should not give it back. Haji Pir is a place. Had we got it, all this terrorism would have stopped actually.
Okay.
It actually dominates all the interest points into India. That we just gave it back to them. It's like we gave 93,000 soldiers.
Can you
back to
search
them.
Haji Pir in Google Earth? Because I have not seen it.
Yeah,
Like, I
Haji Pir
haven't-
Pass is a very important pass.
Okay.
So-
On Google Earth.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about the people who claim that we also went till Lahore?
Lahore, yeah, almost. We reached Lahore almost.
Okay. Okay.
That's true. We reached Lahore and we came back actually.
One of the Pakistani historian and writer Hassan Nisar, he was saying that I was sleeping and somebody came, the Indian army is in Lahore. And I was like, what happened? And then we all ran, let's see where his Indian army is. And then we came to know that they're like all 60 kilometers away or something like
Actually, coming to see 50-60 kilometers is not a great distance to cover if you are actually having your tanks are not moved in.
that. But then they also reached till Amritsar, right? Is it
Yeah,
true?
so actually not Amritsar.
Mhm.
This was a war where there a lot of tank warfare took place, and one of the biggest tank warfare after the Second World War took place. Like I said, see, when you have a force like Pakistan and India, if you just consider a few days, like most of warfare, Indo-Pak warfare is considered to be gentlemanly warfare, and this moniker came to us after the 1965 war, because we did not. And why it is so? Because we don't, neither us nor them, we don't target their crowded areas,
Civilians.
civilian population, dams, reservoir, hydro projects, and also the power plants. We don't, and railway stations. We don't attack those things, and similarly they don't attack. We try to minimize collateral damage. Of course, collateral damage does happen in this kind of war. War is a dirty game. It does happen, but we try, and also they also try. That's why it's called the most gentlemanly warfare.
I have never met an officer in Indian Army who disregards or disrespects Pakistan's forces. All of you talk respectfully about them, not the people, but like Manek Shah also said that in 1971 they really fought gallantly, even if they surrendered. But he was praising them. So why is that? Like why every officer speaks respectfully?
Because it's a respect given to a person in uniform. I know that he's fighting for to defend his motherland, and he's being paid for it, and he knows I'm doing the same thing. And he otherwise is a thorough gentleman, so am I. It's only that if his hierarchy leadership tells him to attack me and kill me, he will do that, and he's trained for that, and so is me. So there is a mutual. It's like it's a very loosely thing, but analogy. But two boxers fighting in a ring, they may show tantrums and all before they fight, but once they start fighting, they have a lot of respect for each other.
Yes.
And what is the respect? If I don't have respect again for you, I will put my guards down, and I'll get knocked off. So respect also means I'm appreciating your techniques. And I also know that if I put my guard down, you can knock me off.
Yes.
So that is another respect of his professionalism. So a soldier is a professional, and two professionals will always respect each other. And again, the second thing, now you asked a very interesting question, because a soldier is the only person who doesn't war. But he knows what could be the damage which can be created which can be inflicted by war. And the soldier also knows what is restraint, what is constraint. And if you see in the world of warfare, there is always conditionality and proportionality. Any response you give against a threat to you, it should be conditional and it should be proportionate. You just can't do disproportionate kind of warfare. And in Indo-Pak scenario, it is always, this is strictly followed. So slightly digressing from
No,
what
go
you
ahead,
asked
please.
me,
Yeah, very
but
interesting.
the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is soldiers will always respect other soldiers.
So I use the terminology, especially in the case of Israel and Hamas war. They say that Israel is using disproportionate attack, like on Hamas people. So what is this concept? Like what exactly? I don't get it. Like
So actually, when
proportionate means what? You're attacking me. It doesn't matter. I have a lot of arms.
like I'll tell you, proportionate means if you have started an air campaign and you have targeted, let's say, 8-10 of my airfields, I will respond and maybe target 15 of your airfields. I have not targeted your hydro projects. I have not created mayhem in your country. That is called proportionate. Disproportionate means now I have got free hand. I will open up all the front, the complete front I'll open because I've got the massive strength. I've got 1,000 fighter aircraft. I can create so much of damage. I can beat you to pulp. That is disproportionate. Now, in case of Israel and Hamas, or in case of US and Afghanistan, it is always disproportionate.
Yes, obviously.
Because the kind
Yeah,
of
true,
superiority
yes,
they got in terms
yes.
of the combat superiority they've got. Hamas is an outfit which is not as professional as the Israeli, which is one of the best fighting outfits in the world.
In the world,
And
yes.
they're backed with technical supremacy
Superiority.
and superiority.
Yes.
And also by the international fora. They've got the biggest backing from America. And most of the Western powers are backing them. So whatever they do is always disproportionate.
So okay, now thank God, thank you for telling me that, because when do we decide? Like when do we decide that okay, now, for example, there were news that Karachi port was destroyed by NS Vikrant.
That was incorrect.
That was incorrect.
Again, incorrect.
But so-called media, the mainstream media, which most of the time lies, they were claiming that, oh, Karachi is burning and Vikramaditya is, the Vikrant is firing and this and that.
So there are a lot of armchair strategists in the world, particularly in India, also Pakistan also.
From where they got this kind of information? If this was a
So
misinformation.
that's the point. No, like they all want to create some story as if they are authority on it. Once upon a time, one of the Barkhadat became perhaps the better than any other Fauji guy in terms of strategy of war during the Kargil. Of course, she did a fantastic job, but the authoritative way she was speaking, it's like I can also read few books about medicine and claim that I'm a doctor. It's not possible that way. War is a serious business. It's a continuation of politics in some other manner.
But Navy was not part of this war.
Now, for this to understand this, one has to also understand what is always Indo-Pak scenario, be it war or be it otherwise. Indo-Pak scenario, I just told you, is a gentlemanly warfare,
Yes.
number one. They have got vested interest, we've got interest. We have to defend our motherland. So do they have to defend? For Pakistan, survival of Pakistan depends upon creating war with India to keep the Kashmir pot boiling. Otherwise, their army will be of no relevance in Pakistan.
Yes.
So they will create scenarios where they will land up in a conflict situation in India. And they also knows that there will be other countries in the world who will be sympathetic towards them and the conflict will not go beyond 15-20 days. You see any conflict, 65 war about 16-20 days, 17 war about same 16-20 days. This war was how many days? 4 days. So they know it very well. They know they can manipulate the media, they can manipulate the narrative the way they want to shape it. So this is what they do. But again, coming back to when it comes to India, Pakistan, both are nuclear powers, both are responsible nuclear powers. We may say that they may not be that responsible, but the fact of the matter is they also got a nuclear command authority. So do we have. And the final authority on pressing the nuclear button is their prime minister, which is a political guy and not a military guy. So one has to understand this. Number two, in this kind of scenario, no two nuclear war, people having nuclear arsenal ever fight in the world. It is only India and Pakistan. We fought in Kargil and we fought in here, and we exercise restraint. Both the sides exercise restraint. Although there are hawks in Pakistan who keep on showing the nuclear card, but they know that it is not feasible. But it can always happen. So this campaign, actually, one of the spin-offs of this campaign was India was able to prove that they actually called out their nuclear bluff, as people say, because they made it absolutely clear that between the escalation matrix and reaching up to the nuclear, there is adequate space for conventional warfare. Now, as far as the nuclear aspect is concerned, and Indo-Pak scenario, one has to understand that Pakistan has got some red flags before they can use a nuclear weapon. And that is known to all Indian people in the armed forces and people who matter in our country. They know it very well. And they want to keep it below that. Number one is that if you lose territory to such an extent that they will have existential issue of their existence, then they will use nuclear weapons. Economically, if they're so downgraded, they will use nuclear weapons. Militarily, if they're almost degraded to such an extent that they can't retaliate, they will use nuclear weapons. And financially also, diplomatically, politically, if they are if politically they are totally sidelined, they're people who no longer have faith on their political leadership, they will use nuclear weapons. Now all these are inputs for planners of war in our country, and it is taken very seriously. Now, war is a combination of science and art. That's why it's called art of war. So here, people will calibrate their response to any situation which is developing on the other side
in advance,
in such a manner that it is to continue with the concept of conditionality and proportionality, while not stretching it to such an extent that their red flags are met or crossed. So this is the long and short. If people who don't understand this will keep on saying anything, and then it cannot be taken as truth at all from any angle.
Is it also true that Pakistan called the nuclear command meeting on 10th? Is it true?
It may be possible, it may not be possible. Actually, when there is a warfare scenario, see, this is also very symbolic. It is also trying to tell the whole world, look, if I am being beaten, what happens in boxing, in novice boxing, I'm not talking about, or even amateur boxing, I'm not talking about,
let's bring MMA.
Yeah.
UFC.
No, UFC though I don't watch much, but boxing, I was a boxer myself, and every Fauji officer is a boxer because you have to do boxing in academies, whether you get knocked out or you get knocked out somebody else. So there is a concept that if I feel that that I'm losing, so my support party will throw the towel. So that's one way you can stop the battle. Here what happens, if now a country decides, enough is enough, I am now done, and I'm done with, and beyond this, it is going to be harakiri for me, then how does he signal his intention for someone to intervene?
Yes.
Or the best way is to create a scenario, dramatize a scenario where the world looks at you. What is happening is that when this campaign is taking place, everybody is watching. All political heads are watching. There are two nuclear nations engaged in battle. So it is a very sensitive issue. So they have to give some kind of indication. And one of the indications could be the call for a meeting of nuclear command authority. The moment they call a meeting of nuclear command authority, it is construed by everybody else. This could be a hawkish attitude. In any case, everyone knows Pakistan is not a very responsible country. When you talk about the way the politics goes on in Pakistan and the collusion between
Especially in
Pakistani
comparison to
military
India, yes.
and how they look down upon the political heads and how they have, how the ISI plays and weaves their stories and all, and how the non-state actors are part of one of the most important combat element which Pakistan has got. So taking all this into consideration and the fact that Osama bin Laden was inside Pakistan, who the hell is going to agree to what Pakistan is saying and believe?
So Donald Trump jumped after this statement. The moment the statement came out, Donald Trump jumped into this scenario, calling both the countries. Before, I think when the war started, Donald Trump was like, oh, they will sort it out.
Yeah.
Initially, for first 2 days, they will sort it out. They will sort it out. And then on the 10th, he jumped in between when he saw that India is getting really superior. Or again, which I initially said that, our arsenal was superior. He was like, okay, we don't want you to sell arms. We are already doing it. I don't know, maybe that.
Actually, see, to say when you look at such kind of statement emanating from such a powerful man in the world, it doesn't, indicate the kind of maturity which is expected of that person. If you say that India and Pakistan have been having this issue for the last 1,000 years,
Yeah.
that the whole basis is wrong. Thereafter, whatever you can say.
No, but Donald Trump is not a well-read guy, right? Let's say that. Donald Trump, with all due respect, is not a well-read guy, first. Second, somebody told him that, okay, maybe the invaders used to come to India and it's a 1,000-year-old war and this and that. So that hit his mind and he keeps saying it's a 1,500 years old war. You don't even know that.
But actually, what happens once you are a public figure and the most powerful person in the world, one has to be a bit more careful and discreet in their statements, especially when they know very well that this is the 4th or 5th time they've actually got involved in this kind of conflict.
But that's what Americans love about him, and that's why he wins, because Americans think that he has no filter, because everybody else who had filter were worst. So Americans thought, okay, this guy has no filters. Let's vote for him this time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the one.
So the other thing is to look at it is I was reading some article today in the morning that he tried to stop the Ukraine-Russia war. Nothing is happening.
Nothing is happening.
He's
Yes.
trying to stop the Israel-Hamas war. Israel is attacking all the more.
He's overplaying his cards, I
And
guess.
so now the only
Yes.
thing is that he realized India and Pakistan 4 days they will automatically stop. So now he wants to take the credit for it. This could be one of the reasons.
Yes, absolutely. But he's overplaying his cards. When you can't order Putin, he will not listen to you. He's not your.
The other way of looking at it is like this.
Yes.
If he is making this statement, Pakistan is the happiest
Yes.
because he's trying to internationalize the Kashmir issue. And if President USA is talking something about in his favor, it is construed by Pakistan that he's spoken in his favor. That he's the one who has stopped he's involved himself and his whole team got involved and then they stopped and asked for the ceasefire. So that is actually going to help the cause of Kashmir cause for Pakistan. It is not that good for India. India always wants it to be a bilateral issue, not a multilateral issue.
But why would Donald Trump, for some reason, something happened. He might have tried to push our prime minister on something, which obviously our prime minister is also a very strong leader. So he would have said no. Suddenly his view changed about India. He started telling Tim Cook that stop investing in India, invest in America and I'll do this. India knows how to take care of themselves. So I don't understand this man. Actually, I don't know what he's up to. When he won initially, I was very happy.
That is his USP, no? That is USP. Nobody understands him. How many times he changes people? In the last presidency also he changed so many people, important people.
Yes.
This time also he changed.
Yes.
Elon Musk just left.
Elon Musk left because he had a lot of issues in his own company. So he was like, okay.
Whatever it is, but the fact of the matter is he was handling an important department, Dodge.
Yes.
And
yes.
Dodge did. Dodged him rather.
Okay. So CDS.
With no offense to American people who may be watching this video.
Okay, CDS, Indian CDS told Bloomberg a day before yesterday in Singapore that we had losses. And then Mr. Airman Bharti, Air Marshal Bharti also said that we had losses. Why can't they simply come out and say, okay, these were the losses which we had?
So it's like this, that a truth has to be told.
Yes.
The point is the timing of the truth. Obviously, the campaign was going on, one could not say anything, even if there are losses, because there is got a lot of ramification. Militarily, it is not a correct statement to make. Politically, it is not wise, it's very unwise. And then it also directly affects the morale of the troops. That's why a lot of losses are bound to happen, especially in a short duration war between India and Pakistan. The natural asymmetry of the combat potential gets diluted. If it is a 25-30 days war, then our ascendancy of power will actually manifest. But and we all know that this is 10 days, at best 15-20 days. If you go by statistics, it is not beyond that, 2 weeks war, not more than that. Means intense campaign. Thereafter it can keep on having minor skirmishes, border firing will keep on happening. But the intense activity of warfare with Indo-Pakistan is not more than 2 weeks. In that 2 weeks time frame, it doesn't allow time for the entire power of a country to manifest. And if it's a very short duration war, then their power is equally matched with our power. So that is why one cannot avoid losses. And every combatant knows whether he's flying aircraft, whether he's in a submarine or an aircraft, things can happen. Things can go wrong, terribly go wrong, not as per what people have planned. So that these things will happen. So the timing of what you have to say has to be said that way. Now, it is only a ceasefire. That means the hostilities have halted, but the Operation Sindoor is still continuing. So technically speaking, we have not yet laid down our arms. Neither they nor us. We are still active. We can be, and situation might change anytime, although it may not, but it can change anytime. So technically speaking, we are still at the stage of operational readiness.
So, okay, my question is that why do the deep state from any country, be it America, India, Pakistan, when we can vote and change the governments, why do they think that we are not ready to know the truth? That's the question. Like, okay, if we lose something, we have all the rights to know, because that gives birth to a lot of speculation and a lot of frustration in people, in the normal public. And I understand that, that okay, the armed forces do not want to share their plans to normal people. Okay, but the war is done. We should know the truth, what might have happened.
So the war is not done, in the sense that if the war was done, then 48 would have been the end of the war. But thereafter 65, thereafter 71, thereafter Kargil, thereafter now this, who knows, for all you know, there may be another one. So war is not done. So under these circumstances, and the troops are the same, a Jawan who joins the army stays for minimum 18 years. If he's doing well, he goes on till 35 years. And an officer will stay for about at least 33, 34 years of his life. So there are chances that he might just see another campaign. So this war is never done. People who ought to know what has happened, no. It is not necessary that we have to publicize to general public. Yes, there are speculations. Speculations will as such be there even if you tell the truth. It is a human tendency to speculate.
Don't we have the right to know?
Because by speculation, what happens? People want to participate in an activity. Like you see a cricket match, the people who are in the stands are actually participating. They feel they are participating. They are actually supporting the team. A tacit or a support of the team, or it's like covert or overt support of in the lexicon of of war. If a country is trying to tacitly or covertly or overtly supporting the war campaign of the other country, he also becomes a belligerent. I'm just telling you. This is the definition in warfare. So here, when you are sitting idle at home and you're seeing what is happening, people are reporting, media is trying to challenge your intellect, and media is creating their own stories and all. You also want to be part of the media. You also want to be part of the war which is happening. They can't be part of the war directly, so they start speculating. That's also one way of participating.
But don't we have the right to know what we lost? See, all these arms and ammunitions are somewhere bought with, I'm not saying the taxpayers' money, because that's too generic. I'm saying that we all are part of this big country, and we all have the right to know what might have happened. And 65, 71, whatever wars might have happened, we just want to know that what we lost. Okay, and I don't know, it might not be the right time. Okay, or I don't know, why are we not aware? Because I was under impression that we did not lose anything. Why I'm saying this? Because CNN asked the defense minister of Pakistan that you were saying that they lost 5 Rafales, but where is the proof? So the defense minister said that, oh, didn't you see Indian social media? So the CNN host said that, what are you saying?
Exactly.
Indian social media, do you have any proof?
Exactly.
So she literally debunked him then and there. But my question is that when we ourselves are saying that we might have had some losses, don't you think that we should tell the people as well that, okay, this might have happened?
So it's like this, the people ought to know a lot of things. But are the people mature enough to understand things?
But why not? Who decides we're mature or not?
That is the point. Now,
Yes.
has Pakistan declared how much aircraft they lost or how much was that war damage? They have not declared, and never will. They will never declare. In no warfare, any country declares how many aircraft they lost, how many ships they got sunk. A ship getting sunk is a very big thing, because it's a huge property, and 300 to 400 families
Yes.
they lose their bread earners, and also that's a huge thing. But suppose in a boat fight, 10 people die. So it doesn't really make much of a difference to the whole world, but definitely to the families, it makes a difference. Definitely to the people who are doing the war, it makes a difference to them. So while I take it, what you're saying, as the fundamental requirement of any citizen of the country to know what has been the damage done, but the fact of the matter is that there is also the methodology which is practiced by the armed forces world over, not to reveal exactly what has happened, because in that kind of it may just be an information which is given. Bits and pieces of information, when collated together in a collage and examined by trained eyes and trained minds, can lead to a lot of information which is classified in nature. So that may be one of the reasons also as to why Nobody wants to disclose. So we are not unique in the sense that how many of our aircraft were lost. The very fact that it was told by DG Air Ops that yes, we are in a campaign mode and losses are part and parcel of any campaign. What is more important, and which is I feel as a
Yes.
retired soldier, I feel that what is more important is your lakshya, your objective.
Yes. Yes.
Have you been able to achieve objective? If you have been able to achieve the objective, you would definitely have losses because you're not fighting against cavemen. You're fighting against a very powerful enemy. You're fighting against an enemy which has got support from, in terms of weapon and armory, support from high-end countries, including China. Whether we call it high-end or low-end, China is world leader in so many of the military tactics, military technology. So if you are pitted against that powerful, it's like, again, referring back to boxing match, you want to play boxing, you want to fight with the person in the ring, and you expect that nothing will happen to your face or your body. He won't even punch you. It's not possible. So I guess that
Yes.
suffices.
Absolutely. No, that's I'm asking you questions which come to my mind only.
And see, if you see the statement of CDS, he made it very clear
Yes.
that yes, we lost, but then more than loss is we refined our tactics, which is more important. It is the agility.
Yes, he did say yes.
It's a professional agility that once you have a reverse in any campaign, it's a professional agility that you reappreciate the situation and you position your force and use different tactics, use different strategy, and to overcome the odds against you. So, which is a very matured way of looking at things, I would say.
Is it also true that one of the Haft missile came up to Sirsa?
It is true, and it was shot down by our own missile defense system, which is a good thing. It will happen again. So they did fire a Haft missile. It's a cruise missile, and it was targeted. They're saying that heading towards Delhi. It may not be heading towards Delhi, but definitely there are one or two major airfields near Delhi. It would have been actually, as a response to our attacks on the airfield, possible.
So New York Times did a story on this, on the war, and New York Times shown the satellite imagery, not by the Indian Navy or Indian Air Force. They show the imagery done from their own end, and they said Pakistan had serious damages on the airport, especially at Noor base. They had problems there, and a couple of other places. My question is, did we also have some issues like that? Like they were saying that which airport? I don't know, something in Jammu. They attacked our airbase in Jammu. Is it also true that we had some attacks on our airbases?
See, again, if you see air camp, again, we are pitted against a reasonably combat ready force. So, and they also have got long range missiles. They've also got aircraft which are sophisticated, so-called sophisticated missiles and aircrafts. So definitely there would have been some targeting. But unlike Pakistan, where people can actually manipulate things, in our country it's not possible to manipulate things. If such a damage has taken place, everybody will come to know about the damage.
Yes.
There are civilians who will come talk about it. Their own people around will talk about it. So India, man, to hide things in India is not that easy, given the kind of situation which
and the phones.
And now everyone is a reporter. Everyone has got a smartphone is a reporter.
Yes.
So it is, in today's world, it's impossible for someone to hide facts. But yes, if the CDS is committed that has owned that there were some losses, definitely there were some losses.
So there are three things, okay? Misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation.
Yeah.
So malinformation is something which is true, but you're not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this war, what do you think was the biggest? Was that misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation?
I think it would be a combination of all three.
All three.
All three. Now, to what extent, to what percentage, I really can't figure out. That is for the people who matter to know about it. For example, if there is something which has happened, for example, if the AD has worked properly or not worked properly, they could have worked better than what they have done, suppose. So all this will come into analysis, post-conflict analysis, and will be rectified, post-haste. If there is some tactical mistakes being carried out by something, or if there was a technical glitch which happened in a flying object, and as a result of which it could not perform to the level it was supposed expected to perform, all this will come under scrutiny. And I can assure you that all this gets, in a reasonable duration of time, it gets eradicated.
Do you think we'll go back to now drones, and instead of buying these high-cost airplanes, the war planes, we will not go to them?
Actually, no.
Okay.
Because drones, as I said in the initial start of this podcast, that drones are one of the cheapest method of doing war fighting. And to some extent, I'm more than convinced that it does help in diluting the conventional superiority of one nation against the other. And generally, if you see, this came to the fore during the Armenian-Azerbaijan warfare. Armenia is a very powerful country with a very powerful military, but Azerbaijan was able to actually give a good beating to the other country because of the drone warfare. Now you see what is happening in Ukraine. Today, Monday, there's news that these people have smuggled some kind of drones and taken to a very remote airfield in Russia, which is about 3,800 kilometers from the line between Russia and the line which is now being occupied by the Russian forces, 3,800 kilometers away, and they've been able to destroy 40 bombers. Tu-95 and Tu-142 bombers, one of the most strategic bombers, have been destroyed by drone attacks by the Ukrainians. So this speaks volumes.
By smuggling it inside.
They smuggled it inside, and they've shown how they smuggled it in trucks and all, and by the drivers who were sympathetic towards the cause of Ukraine. Whether this information is 100% correct or not, I don't know, but I'm just saying whatever I've read today morning about this. And if this is true, then you can imagine the extent of the capability that drone can actually bring into any kind of warfare, and so cheap. I've been talking to people because I myself belong to drone industry. I've been talking to people and they say that there are companies in Ukraine which are making 1 lakh drones in a month.
With the help of America.
So drone is a very cheap way of fighting, and a weaker country will always take resort to having drones. You can have all kind of drones, sophisticated drones and normal drones also. But drones are more effective when they come in mass. Swarm of drones, cheap drones, swarm of drones, in thousands if they come. If you see, in this time the drone warfare between Indo-Pakistan was, maybe it appeared to be very preliminary stages of drone warfare. But future will be drone warfare. Because to buy one, for example, we use Harpy and Haroop drones. If you see the cost of Haroop and the cost of one high-end fighter aircraft India has got, you can buy actually 150 Haroops. And if you have 150 Haroops participating in a campaign, which is of 4 to 5 days, I think it is more effective.
It is true.
It will be, I won't say more, but it will be very cost effective to use those kind of weapons of war. So that's why
the ones which Iran is making, the ones they call as kamikazes.
Kamikaze drones are drones made by many countries. It's a drone which has got explosive material inside, and it just loiters around the place
like Japanese people.
Attack, but there's no human being inside, and everything. It could be auto mode, it can be also manual mode. So they are very effective because what happens? They carry small charge of 10, 15, 20 kgs, but because of the potential energy and the terminal velocity they achieve when they are hitting striking the target, the effect is much more than with respect to the amount of explosives they carry.
Do you think we'll go back? Like India will make a lot more drones now, focusing
100%.
Okay.
It is the dream of our country, and Prime Minister has made it very clear. We want to become the drone hub of the world. My company makes the company where I work. We make military drones. We make combat drones. We make all kinds of drones. There are so many. There are more than 1,000 drone startups in the country. A lot of fillip has been given to the drone industry in our country. Pakistan, on the other hand, believes in too much of importing of drones. We also, if you see this campaign, almost all the drones, high-end drones which we use, were sourced from abroad. Of course, there were Indian companies also which gave drones which were utilized in the campaign. I won't name the companies which were utilized in the campaign, very effectively utilized in the campaign.
Great.
See, for us, we did not start those companies which I'm talking about, Israeli companies from where we source the drones. They started much earlier. We've started slightly later, so we're doing catching up game. But the technical know-how and the research requirements, that ecosystem is slowly building in our country. I can talk about the company where I'm working. It's a strong ecosystem of research and development. Likewise, there'll be some other companies also. And our company founders, they believe in also helping the other people who are in the verge of establishing a research and development facility, which is a very good thing.
Yes.
So it's a matter of time. This is also indicative that the ecosystem of high-tech military hardware will keep on increasing only. And a time will come then our dependence on foreign imports will totally cease. And this campaign and the campaign which is going on in Ukraine and Russia and what happened in Azerbaijan and Armenia is able proof that drone warfare is there to stay. It has become another dimension of warfare, rather a cheaper dimension of warfare.
But it's a soulless war. It's like, if you look at it, I mean, you have spent your entire life in Navy. But when you see the drone warfare, it's a soulless war. For example, I was watching one of the reels shots in which Russian soldier is running away and drone is behind him, shooting him and killing him. It's a soulless war. These machines are soulless. It's just, I felt so bad for that guy because he had no chance.
I didn't know that there is soul in war also.
No, but I'm telling you, it's what I personally feel. The moment we start pressing buttons only, we are not even fighting. We're just pressing buttons. Over a period of time, these robots will fight with each other. What do we have to do in the war?
That way, the air campaign and the naval warfare is always soulless war. Okay. Because we also hear what happens in the naval campaign is what? We don't even see the enemy. Like my ship had a weapon which could fire 120 kilometers. Now we got ships which got BrahMos, which got 450 kilometers range. And you also have the system by which we can actually identify a target and give the target bearing and all to the ship which is firing. The firing platform is different and the target acquiring platform is different because you had longer ranges. At longer ranges, you have satellite which can pass you information. You got a long range maritime patrol aircraft which can pass you position. Now you can also have drones which can pass you position of an enemy warship. or enemy asset there and give you, that is called over the horizon targeting. That's a methodology which is used in the Navy. And you can fire a weapon because weapon will always have a longer range than your surveillance equipment. So take help of the other surveillance equipment which is floating around in the air, or strategically positioned in some place, and he can give you the target information. You're firing. So it's, I mean, as per your definition, it's soulless war.
It is, all of them are soulless. I think
And what
I
about the submarine warfare?
no,
They
I
fight
believe
across.
I believe the war in which you get up to the hand combat.
Yeah.
That's a soulful
Well,
war.
that situation, I think it may not happen again. Yes, boots on ground is very, very important. But see now, as I told you, war is an expensive proposition. People want to minimize the cost of war. That's why they want to use drones. That's why they want to use long range standoff weapons. Like we use Calp, we use Hammer, we use BrahMos, and we use spice bombs and all this. They're all remote long range standoff weapons because we want to minimize collateral damage. So overall, this is what is going to be the governing factor for future war.
Why do okay? When can do we have to wait for the people who are involved in these wars to write books? Because that's when you know what might have happened at that way. After 20 years, 30 years, you come to know that, okay, in 1971 war, this was happened, that was happened. Okay. Where do you see India as in future? Where do you see us? First, our aim is to be completely independent from any other country's dependency. That's point number one. Do you also see us thinking of buying or making F-35s or things like that? Do we see that?
If you see the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign, see, we are one of the largest importers of weapons equipment in the world.
Even till today?
Even today, we're the second largest importers.
Which one is the number one?
Number one now, of course, Ukraine.
Okay.
And there is Saudi Arabia, which is one of the largest, and we are the second largest importer of weapons in the world. And it's very expensive. It's taxpayers' money, but it is required for the defense of the country. So one can't avoid it. How can you cut cost? By developing your own assets. By creating a system where our industry rises up to the level, our technical prowess is such that we can make world-class equipment, which we are convinced that can help us in defending our nation or even against any adversary, or can also act as a deterrence to our adversary, so that he should not get into some misconception and start a campaign against us. So these are very important facts of warfare. And for any country to be self-sufficient is the best thing. And it's a constant fight, because the countries which are now leading the world market will never expect a third world country like India or a rising economic power like India to come to a level where their business interest is actually diluted. So it's a constant struggle. There will be, so the way forward is, like what is happening is that you establish TOT with some other company which is based out of US or European nation or Israel, and start manufacturing here. Slowly, you increase the Indian component in that. And after a few years, when you feel that you are graduated to such a level that you can almost do 90 to 100% work, then so be it. Then that's how you become. It is going to be a great struggle and effort, because other countries won't allow you to do that. But we have to find ways and means.
Like Pakistan did when they made the nuclear bomb.
Yeah, but then they made the nuclear bomb by whatever means. It's all it's all in the papers how the things are smuggled.
I was reading an article of New York Times in 1998, which they wrote and they literally blamed America, saying that because of the Afghanistan war, America helped Pakistan getting the nuclear weapon.
I mean, it may be possible, may not be correct.
Yeah.
But yes, America had a great role to play in creating the Mujahideen force, which was funded by the CIA to the ISI, and thereafter, whatever happened in Afghanistan, it's everyone knows the story.
And America is one more. I was reading a book. I don't know the name of the writer. I don't remember the name of the writer right now. It's right here somewhere. So, in that book, the writer says that that Iran or Afghanistan or Pakistan or Islam was not as radicalized as America and Britain made sure that they become radicalized slowly and gradually, so they can get their advantage in Afghanistan. How true is that, according to you?
I mean, if you look at anything which is happening in the world today, there's a link which you can trace back to America. Because see, it is always...
So it's actual excess of evil.
I mean, actual evil, they say somebody else, and the fact of the matter is, one has to be very diplomatic in saying this. But if I was the person who's got my business interest in the whole world, I would act like one and be very selfish in my dealings with other countries. Whatever I will do will ensure that my kitty is always full and I keep on gaining from it. So war is, as I told you, is a business, and is one of the biggest businesses going on in the world. So you create war, you create a situation which leads to war. If it is your direct involvement, you want to avoid your direct involvement, a third party involvement, but actually being funded by you. At the end of the day, you are the beneficiary, net beneficiary. I would do that. So if some country is in a position to do that, then you can't blame that country.
Yes.
So I mean, that's one way I can answer this question without naming a country.
My one of the best friends, he lives in New York. He's from Azerbaijan.
Okay.
And whenever there was a fight between Azerbaijan and Armenia, we were talking and he was like, your bloody country is helping Armenia against us. And in the Pakistan where I called him, I said, your bloody country is helping Pakistan against us. We actually laughed. But, the people of these countries, the people who live in these countries, for example, Turkey or India or Pakistan, do they have to be really feel and like, there are enemies, or how the people should behave?
See, I can cite my own example of meeting with Pakistani officers and their families. I was in Indonesia for a year and a half with my wife, my family, and we had Pakistani officers also there doing this course. Maybe they were not doing the same course which I was doing, but we were together and we used to meet. You really cannot make out whether he's a Pakistani or he's an Indian by the way they talk. I will cite an example, which I've also told him on podcast. So in one day when we were talking, there was a Pakistani wing commander. He used to fly Mirage 5. I'm sure he must be a very senior position now in Pakistan Air Force. And he may have been part of this campaign, I don't know. So he was speaking with me, and there was another Pakistani naval officer. He was a lieutenant commander. And we were generally talking. So one of the white guys came, and we had a guy from Australia. So he used to be very jovial. He says, VJ, why are you talking to this guy? You should be fighting with him. I said, look, if it's a joke, it's fine, but let me tell you the truth. The fact of the matter is, he and me are friends here. In our heart of heart, we are friends. It is you guys who try to create rift between both of us and make us fight. And by the way, I'll tell you one more thing. He's talking in a language which I'm able to understand 100%. And similarly, when I'm talking to him, he's able to understand. But whatever he's speaking, if he writes and gives to me, I won't understand a single word because that is Urdu. Whatever I'm speaking is Hindi. He won't understand the word. And that guy was surprised that you can have individuals like this also. So this is one thing. And a couple of my sailors from the Navy who had been in Pakistan in embassy, they interact with Pakistani people. There have been times when they go to a shopping complex and the moment the Pakistanis come to know that you're Indian, they don't even take money for the item you're buying. They give you as gift. So there is this kind of sort of friendship which exists in the hearts and minds of the people. But it is a political situation more than anything else.
So once in Chicago, me and my wife were there. So there was a restaurant which was obviously Indian named, and I spoke to the owner. He was a Pakistani because my wife was pregnant. She couldn't eat anything. So I went and I said, my wife is pregnant. She couldn't eat anything. Make this because my wife told me ki if I can get this, I'll be fine. So I said, make this and this if you can. He was like, okay, give me 1 second. Then he called his chef. And I asked him, where are you from? He was from Karachi. And he asked me where I am from. I was from India. And then he called the chef. He asked him that, whatever he's saying, make exactly like this. That guy made it. We got it. And then this guy was so nice to us. He was like, that, okay, whatever you want, we'll not charge you anything. And this, and I was like, no, you don't have to. But he was genuinely a nice human being, the guy I met.
Yeah. So I'll give you another example.
Mm-hmm.
Once my wife was speaking to one Pakistani officer's wife in Indonesia again. And obviously, maybe my wife should have been a bit more careful when dealing with her. So she just told her, look, why don't you just come across to our house when we go back to India? So the Pakistani officer's wife told her, look here, how can we come? You guys will drive us out from there. So we can't actually come to a house like this. So my wife came back to me and she said, this is what I spoke to that lady. Can you imagine within 5 minutes, her husband came. And he apologized to me for the words used by his wife. Imagine, what does this talk about? It talk about that it is not the way which other countries look at us. Sometimes it's not the way even we look at them and they look at us.
But as a civilian, I hate them. Why? Because they attacked our country. So I don't like them.
That obviously. See, when it comes to the national interest,
Yes.
that is number one is national interest.
Yes.
Everything else becomes secondary.
True.
Or tertiary.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. But since you asked about why the people
are
almost same. They've got the same kind of problems like we have. They also are, middle class country like we are. They also believe in family.
At least our politicians are little better than their politicians.
That's why we are doing so well and they are doing that well. So it's obvious.
Okay.
This campaign, everyone knows much about this campaign, as most of the people have either watched videos or commentary by experts and also on TV and all. But there are a couple of very important lessons which have been learned from this campaign. Number one is that India has changed its total approach towards Pakistan now. From the strategic restraint, which we always exercised, now we want to give it back to them. And we made it very clear that you will have to pay. If you do any activity in our country which is related to terrorism, then you have to pay for it. So that is, it has now become that our approach has been rather offensive now, rather than exercising strategic constraint, which is a very important thing. Number two, that Pakistan always talks about the nuclear card, which has been debunked. And there is adequate space to do conventional warfare and yet make it very decisive. Number three, and which is more important, is it is a warfare which is seen utilization of high-tech stuff, never ever seen in any part of the world between two nuclear countries. Using drones, using long-range weapons, sophisticated armory. Number four, importantly, it is also for the first time that Chinese equipment was being pitted against Western equipment. And that, I suppose, also one of the reasons as to why nobody is talking about what are the exact overall losses in their side and our side. Could be
Yes.
one of the reasons, because there could be interest from other international players.
None of the international players are talking about the losses. Nobody wants to talk about it. People want to take the credit, but no one wants to talk about the losses because it's their equipments.
Another important thing which this campaign has taught, at least to the people who understand business in the armed forces, will know that there is a concept of strategic depth, which Pakistan always used to think, Afghanistan being their backyard. So they had adequate strategic depth. Strategic depth is nothing but if you are being repulsed, being pushed back to inside your own territory, and you are unable to repulse the attack, you should have adequate depth available to you where you can actually regroup and repulse an attack. That is called strategic depth.
Yes.
So now, with Afghanistan not being as friendly as them, and also Balochistan now creating more trouble and becoming more restive, one thing very clear that Pakistan has lost that concept of strategic depth. Now, this is something which can be easily exploited. One aspect of the naval warfare actually got missed out in this entire podcast,
Mhm.
and there were news that Indian Navy has actually,
Yes.
attacked Karachi. That's not true, because again, coming back to the red flag issue, because naval warfare is largely an economic warfare. We had come 2 to 300 nautical miles from Karachi port. Karachi port is the biggest port in Pakistan. It is the lifeline of Pakistan. The second is Mohammed bin Qasim. Now, if you are around Karachi port, Mohammed bin Qasim is just about 70-80 nautical miles east of Karachi port. So practically, you can cover the entire area. And covering 200 nautical miles for a warship is half a day's job. And if you're doing aggressive maneuver, which means that you're making your intention very clear, that we are now poised to strike. Now, if you see the domain of Army, Navy, and Air Force between India and Pakistan, naval domain is by far the most superior domain, because we got
For
overwhelming
any
superiority.
country. For any country.
In a sense, may not be necessary for every country. Like America
America,
today
yes.
has got
Like powerful countries,
but we
especially.
also got Air Force, which is equally.
Yes.
But here I'm talking about when it comes to Indian fighter aircraft and Pakistani squadrons available for fighting. We also have to look at the second front, which is China front,
Mhm.
and maybe. So then we will have to divide our assets. So what actually happens that how much they can put to effect and we can put to effect, we may have a marginal superiority. When it comes to the boots on ground, we are almost same there. Number of tanks they've got, number of tanks which we got, and which we can actually bring to bear in this kind of campaign, almost similar. But when it comes to Navy, we are by far the most superior. So this could actually be a decisive factor in any kind of warfare, in a full-fledged war between India and Pakistan. So it's a display of maturity of our country that we have not gone ahead with the naval campaign. Otherwise,
But we were ready.
we were always ready. And you see,
Okay.
armored out 25 ships with the aircraft carrier having about 25 fighter aircraft. Each aircraft is MiG-29K, which is capable of carrying thousands of pounds of bombs and missiles, long-range missiles, air-to-surface missiles. It could have created havoc. It's no longer 1971. This time, if we had some time given and the green signal was given, we could have created the kind of devastation which the world would have actually been very sympathetic about after they would have realized the extent of damage. It could have been definitely crossing all the red flags of Pakistan. And it would have been a humanitarian issue also, because when you cut the lifeline of a country to get oil, to get food and all, it is directly affecting the people of the country. That is perhaps the reason why we did, the presence of the Navy and doing this kind of aggressive maneuvers was good enough signal to them that they have to exercise more restraint rather than get into a situation where they could have to pay very heavily for this. So it was like a pressure tactics. So that is also one of the ways,
So when we are doing this in, let's say, in the Arabian Sea, what happened to the Bay of Bengal to keep an eye on China? What do we do there? What happens?
India's got about 150 ships, out of which there are about 78 which are capital ships. So when we have this camp, that's why 78 which are capital ships. So when we have this camp, that's why we know exactly what could be threat which could emanate from the Chinese, the PLA Navy, and we would have adequate assets ready for that. And we would also know, because see, all these things are war gamed. Now, for a layman who's trying to be a armchair strategist and paying for the blood
Like
of
me.
people, not you, but paying for the blood of the people,
Uh-huh.
a lot of people in the media are like that. So they would not understand the dynamics of this. Each and every aspect of the campaign is exercised and rehearsed. Each and every scenario is created, and we do war gaming, tabletop exercises, physical exercises in the war games. Everything happens. So if somebody says that they got up and then they planned and then they attacked, it is untrue. So this aspect of terrorist activity happening, and thereafter what we have to do, what they will do, how will we counter it, how will the Navy deploy, everything is exercised and well rehearsed. So it is like muscle memory. People do things. So that's the way it is. So how many assets you have to cater to look after the southern Indian Ocean, especially near the Indonesian archipelago, from where we can expect
Yes.
Chinese incursion, and also the Bay of Bengal, where Chinese can actually utilize some port which are there, Sitwe is there, Bangladesh
Yes,
is there,
yes.
all these things.
Mhm.
How do you contain that and how to counter their presence there? All this is exercised. So that's not a worry at all.
So the Indian officers like you and a lot of other Indian officers, they're very balanced in their approach about not the havocs or the okay we will destroy Pakistan, and some of them were, but most of them were very very logical about this assessments of this war. What happened to the Bangladeshi officers? They were like let's cut the chicken neck, let's help China and this and that. What's wrong with Bangladesh? Like we gave them independence. What's wrong with these people?
I think this is a very immature statement by them, and it smacks of their lack of knowledge about the geography of the place, and also definitely they're trying to underplay the superiority of combat potential of India, and maybe they're doing it on purpose because they believe in a particular religion, and which aligns very well with the religion of Pakistan. They would have been saying like
They
that.
could have been, they should have been together, right? Had they been like really such religious people, ideally you would have been friends, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is stupid. You killed each other. We gave you liberation, and now you're trying to be smart with us only.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of turmoil is taking place in Bangladesh. Very soon they'll realize what is wrong with them, and they will, by themselves, wake up, or maybe somebody else will have to wake them up from far.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The on the political leadership, okay. How the political leadership of, do you think that we lost the narrative war with Pakistan because suddenly Pakistan is not a terrorist nation in the eyes of the Western countries? Suddenly, I see a lot of channels are trying to cover up the Pakistan. A lot of experts are coming out and saying, they are victims and this and that. So, do you think that we lost the narrative war?
If you look from this point of view, then definitely it appears that way. But see, everyone knows it's a narrative. In today's warfare, media campaign creates a very strong narrative, and thereafter, how you play along with the media and the timing of whatever you say is very important. So, from that sense, if there are a lot of countries, and the other problem is that it is a smaller country as compared to India. The rise of India today, if you see, most of the market in the world is down, but Indian market is doing very high. We are bigger
Last quarter we did 7.5
Yes.
in growth in GDP.
So it's not that everything is hunky dory in the world. In the world of diplomacy, there are various countries maybe having vested interest to downplay the performance of India. So that could be one of the reasons. They may be siding tacitly or otherwise with Pakistan being a smaller country. So that could be one of the reasons. And to say that now it is no longer, definitely India wants to dehyphenate Indo-Pak. India wants to make it very clear that it's a bilateral issue and not a multilateral issue. But Pakistan wants to make it a multilateral issue.
Yes.
And their narrative was shaped in such a manner. We are very clear about the narrative. So we stuck to our guns that this is what it is. If somebody wants to believe, believe. If somebody doesn't want to believe, don't believe. We are today in such a position that we don't care about what is a generic opinion. Yes, we care about what is a diplomatic opinion. If you see, 123 countries supported us in this entire duration of campaign. And now with the multi-party political leaders going to other countries to cover the whole world to explain our stand, that is also going to add heft to our this.
That is one of the most positive things happened after such a long time in
So
this
there
country.
are a lot of positives.
Yeah.
Political positives,
Yeah.
leadership. Now, if you see leadership, I must admire the leadership, the current disposition of leadership led by Prime Minister Modi, because see, it is not easy to take decisions like this because it can go either way. Knowing if somebody is of the view that we didn't know how strong Pakistan was, and we didn't know that they would repulse the attack like this, and we didn't know that they could be targeted, our airfields be targeted, then they're living in a fool's paradise. Everything is known, and he's been briefed adequately. Despite that, he's taking a decision, and he's taking important decision which can actually make or break his political
Absolutely.
image.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is the most important thing. So if a politician is taking a decision like this, which is very measured, restrained, focused, as he said, and as we did, so it's a very great thing.
And also the body languages was very relaxed, when the all three security chiefs were meeting with the defense minister, it was not a scary body language. And when you look at the Pakistani body language, even the DGISPR's body language or Prime Minister's defense, their body language was very scared. They were like, oh my God, stop this. Okay.
If you're a psychological lawyer, if you're liars like that, then obviously everyone knows that we are trying to deceive the whole world and we are lying to each other. So when that happens, this kind of psychological fear psychosis does enter in people's mind. They don't behave in a natural manner. This is what is my understanding. Whereas in our case, we're very clear. What we said we did, and then we stopped. And we displayed the kind of maturity, democratic maturity which we have. And the best part of the entire campaign was the escalation matrix was being controlled by us.
Yes.
One question which you asked about, will the future of warfare be drone? And then I said
Yes.
something, and then we
Mhm.
got digressed. Another important aspect to reduce the cost
No,
of war
but
is...
let me correct you. First, you said no, the drones might not be the future.
No,
You said that planes might be.
that
Uh-huh.
no.
Uh-huh.
That was a question, answer to a question when you said, will they replace the aircrafts?
Yes. Yes.
I said no.
Yes.
They can never replace the aircraft, because aircraft has got many multifarious roles which drones cannot do.
Okay.
And you would have a rather mass scale of drone attacks than having limited drone attacks, which was seen in this kind of warfare. So once you have, if it is a air campaign like this, or it's a drone warfare like this, it is very easy for people to control it. But the moment the tanks roll into the enemy territory and the boots are on ground, it becomes very difficult for you to pull back and halt. So then escalation is the obvious choice then. So that also will increase the cost of war. That is why world over they would actually, unless you want to demonstrate your combat potential, so that you're acting like you're giving a demonstration on no cost, no commitment basis, but knowing fully well that other countries are going to buy your equipment, then it's a different matter. But for that, you have to choose an enemy which cannot match up with you, which some of the countries in the world do. But that's not the case with us.
Even if they lose their own soldiers.
Nothing happens to them. For them, everything is business. But in our case, because those guys are not fighting for the motherland.
Yes.
I mean, they don't fight while being in the motherland for their motherland. They are fighting expeditionary warfare. It's very difficult. I sometimes look at myself. If I was an Indian and I've been told to fight for some other country in some other place, what would be my factor of really want to achieve the target? Definitely diluted. It cannot be like if I'm here defending my house, it's different than I'm going to somebody else's house there and trying to defend his house for us. So there are two different things.
So this fighting for motherland reminds me of 2003, when America was pushing India to give some soldiers for Afghanistan. And then Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the prime minister. And he went to the opposition leaders, I think it was Harkishan Singh Surjit, and he said that, the America is asking this, what you guys are doing. He's like, what we are doing means we are with you. He said, you're not supposed to be with me. Create a havoc. So I can tell them, no, we have, look at our opposition. They will not let us live. Yeah. I can't do it.
Exactly.
So, you know what I'm saying? So India is, even if, despite of all the fights and all the nonsense which you see happening in the entire country, I think all these politicians are very balanced head when they sit together. They're like, apart from some fringe, obviously, it's everywhere. But I think they're very balanced head. And one more thing about Pakistan's first use policy, the nuke policy which they have.
Yeah.
It is stupid. What they say is that we are going to attack on the enemy in our territory. Did you read that policy?
No. I've not read the policy line to line, but what is known to us is that they don't have a no first use policy. They have a policy of using nuclear weapon. It would be foolish on a country to use a nuclear weapon in their own territory. It's foolish. So that may be a wrong statement, because if they have to use, as I told you, the red flag, if the red flags are crossed, then they're going to use a nuclear. Where are they going to fire the nuclear weapon?
Can you search Pakistan first nuclear use thing?
So
let's see what
for
is.
the nuclear attack to be very effective, if they fire tactical nuclear weapons, it has to be again in the our side of the border, not their side of the border. But tactical nuclear weapon usage may not yield them the kind of result which they want. They will have to fire a proper nuclear weapon.
What is a tactical? What is proper nuclear weapon?
So tactical nuclear weapons are generally, the yield capacity is much lesser. It can be used against soldiers in a tactical battle area, TBA.
Okay. Pakistan first nuclear attack policy. Pakistan does not have formal no first use policy regarding nuclear weapons, particularly in relation to India. This means they retain the option of using nuclear weapons first, even if India does not. Under certain circumstances, the policy is primarily driven by strategic need to counter India's larger conventional military forces. Because I heard this statement from one of the Pakistani experts who was speaking on Pakistani Dawn news channel, and he was saying that, okay, we have this policy that we will attack the enemy in our territory, which is stupid. He was saying himself, which is stupid. Why do we have such policy? I don't know.
That may not be correct.
Okay. Well, Pakistan has no place, convention is okay, and that's again talking this. Okay. All right. What happens if Pakistan uses nuclear weapon?
So if Pakistan uses a nuclear weapon, then there is something. So then we also have, if we don't use a nuclear weapon for the first time, but if they attack us with nuclear weapons, we'll respond adequately, and we'll respond with then the response will not be measured. Then we'll use many ways of firing the nuclear weapon. We have a triad. We have weapons we can be fired from land, from air, and also from underwater by nuclear SSB.
Not from space.
As of now, nuclear weapons are not used.
At least we don't claim.
No, nobody has got nuclear weapons in space.
Do you believe Americans and Russians that they did not have it?
Because nuclear weapon is not a weapon of war. It's for deterrence. And you cannot have a floating a satellite floating with a nuclear weapon, knowing fully well it can fall also. So it can have a lot of larger repercussions.
Okay.
So here, once we are attacked, then we will also attack
Disproportionately.
What is going to happen is that it's going to create nuclear winter. Nuclear winter means your sunlight is going to be stopped, and within a couple of months, it is going to have an after effect not only in India, in the entire region, where
Southeast Asia.
Because the climate condition will change. The whole earth will get colder by 1.5 degrees to 2 degrees, which is going to create a lot of chaos, environmental degradation, and agriculture will suffer. And in a nutshell, the whole world is going to suffer very badly. It's going to be a massive humanitarian crisis. So nobody in his good senses will ever use a nuclear weapon. Nuclear weapon, as by the definition, is a weapon only for deterrence. So is the way you try to create a deterrence. We create a deterrence in the right manner in which most of the matured and advanced nations are doing. Whereas Pakistan is creating like a deterrence like a kid does a deterrence, flashing the nuclear card and all. Now that bluff has been called in this campaign.
What about, I was watching a movie called as The Dictator, 2012. Sacha Baron Cohen was the hero of that. And he was like a dictator of a make-believe country called as Wadia, And in that movie, he says, all my friends have nuclear weapons. Even the Iran's Ahmadinejad has nuclear weapon. Then he was the Prime Minister of Iran. So, don't you think that given the America or West's horrible policies of occupying and destroying countries, the leaders like Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, they were sometimes their best friends, sometimes they were enemies. But had these countries had nuclear weapons, do you think they would have destroyed them? So why can't all the countries which are smaller, which are scared of America, why would they not go for the nuclear weapons?
That's what they're doing. What do you think this North Korea is doing? He's trying to.
It's a survival thing.
Yeah, but then nuclear weapon is not actually meant for survival. It is meant for deterring the other country from looking at you from that point of view.
Again, that's what I'm saying. Like if I'm Saddam Hussein or if I'm Muammar Gaddafi, I must get the nuclear weapon because America will destroy me someday. So Muammar Gaddafi literally wrote a letter to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton requesting them that I will resign as the chief of my country. Okay, I will put a different government. I will go from this country, but they still kill him.
Yeah, because once the interest is met, then the person is disposable. But coming to a small country like Syria,
Iran, especially Iran. Yeah.
Having nuclear weapons, it's definitely a threat because what happens is that most of the countries which have got nuclear weapons are democratic countries. And it is a given that in democracy, people cannot be foolish. The political leadership, both opposition and the one which are in the treasury benches, are very matured enough to understand the larger interest of the country. And they will be more, because of that, they will be very matured in their understanding of world affairs and military campaigns and what could be the utilization of the nuclear weapons. Rather, the actual utilization of nuclear weapons. These countries are dictatorship, and they would consider that if these countries make a nuclear bomb, they will make a crude nuclear bomb. Now, crude nuclear bomb is dangerous for everybody.
Okay.
So that is the reason. And as I just mentioned about nuclear winter and all, if anybody is using nuclear weapon, it is going to have a ramification on the entire world. So why should it be allowed to have this kind of thing?
You asked me what will be the subject, and I also said the conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Now, one conspiracy theories. Okay. So, in 1947, I guess there was a Roswell incident in America in which they claimed to catch a saucer.
Yeah.
But it is also alleged that right after the nuclear use, the atomic bomb use on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, these saucers were seen much more than usual, especially closer to American and Russian nuclear facilities. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but in 2018, there was an incident on our Prime Minister's residence. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, something happened.
Yeah. So there was a kind of a UFO on in 2018, our Prime Minister's. Do you believe in such things or do you think these are all hoaxes?
Actually, there have been people who have reported UFOs. But there are...
Have you seen it yourself, like in your career in Navy?
No.
Okay.
I've never seen
because
it.
Navy has a lot to do, especially in America.
Yeah.
Navy people have seen a lot of UFOs actually in sea.
No, see, this is what I'm saying. Now, it could be an optical illusion for you. You never know. It could be an optical illusion because see, all of us who are matured enough and who are educated have gone through that stage in their life when they have read a lot of book about Star Trek and about space adventure and all those things. So it is very easy for people to concoct a story. Now, I'm not saying that everybody is lying. I'm just saying that this could be a fictitious thing. And as far as the UFOs are concerned, it could be some experimental aircrafts which are being flown by the Americans and also by the Russians in their respective areas, because there are certain places which are earmarked as area which are restricted for everybody other than the US people who are involved in the project, like Project 51, Project 52, like
yes.
that. They are projects. They are future weapons. So now, if they're utilizing that area, they will try to do all kind of testing and trials. And if one of the testing and trials involves a saucer-like object which is flying, and it is seen sighted by a pilot which is landing in some area or something like that, it could be a UFO sighting.
Yes.
But there is no recorded, means I have not read any recorded evidence of a UFO being sighted and it's done something or landed somewhere.
No, but I think they have American, especially American government, accepted that there were because they've decided to give compensation to people who claim that my husband died during an UFO thing. Because initially they used to say there was no UFO at all. Now they've decided to compensate. Like if somebody died, they're paying them back. So the chances are that these experiments are done by them only is way higher than somebody else is coming. Because there's something called as blue corner. That's what they're doing. Yeah.
Otherwise, why will they start compensating people?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It is a fact.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming to our show, sir. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. It was a wonderful conversation.